All right, welcome into the Dynasty 365 podcast. I did not want that music to end. I was jamming out. Very excited about it.
It's catchy as hell, right?
Absolutely. You just want to do some salsa dancing, start moving those hips a little bit if you can.
There you go.
It's a good time.
Talking some football. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, welcome to the Dynasty 365 podcast. We are the Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast for fantasyandframes.com. If you don't mind, if you've listened before, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you have not listened before, please stick around and then give us a nice little rating after we're done if we've earned that. So I am Tyler Heil. I am joined by my co-host Jorge Edwards. Jorge, how you doing, man?
Man, it is great to be on Dynasty 365 as your co-host going forward. Totally excited about it. We're not yet in the season of redraft. We're getting there. We're getting close. But I can't wait for all the content we're going to be putting out there in podcast form. We've been putting it out in article form. Head over to fantasyandframes.com. Check all that stuff out. All of our Dynasty Target articles. And, of course, everything we got lined up planned for the rest of the year. So I'm super excited. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So, yeah, if you have listened before, you haven't noticed, our primary host, Brian Ford, is no longer with us. But we would like to thank Brian for all the work that he's done. He did an amazing job, and we will miss him, and we wish him the best of luck going forward. Otherwise, we have a new guest, not new host. I'm the new host. A new guest jumping in. Zach Berger of Fantasy and Frames, of Club Fantasy, of Triple Play Fantasy, and of Dynasty Vipers. Zach, it is wonderful to have you on. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to finally get on the show. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Zach has been doing a lot of work for Fantasy and Frames behind the scenes. He's been doing a lot of writing. Zach, what was your most recent article that you dropped on fantasyandframes.com?
Kadarius Toney, I believe, came out earlier this week. Was my latest one.
Yes, and I am equally as excited about Kadarius Toney. So Zach has been writing a lot for us, and all of the beautiful graphics that you see on Fantasy and Frames for these Dynasty Target articles were created by Zach. So thank you, Zach, for that. They look amazing.
I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Absolutely. So
Nice.
We will jump right into some of what we're doing. Tonight, we're going to do a 2021 rookie redraft. And the phrasing of that can be a little confusing. This is a rookie draft do-over of 2021. So we are going to be going 1 through 12, maybe longer, depending on the time. I don't know if we will. We're just going to be making rotating picks and discussing some of these differences between where they were, where they are now, and where they are in startup drafts. So the idea of this, blank slate team, have no needs or all the needs. You aren't going for any specific position. We're just going for best player available. So before we really jump into that, I wanted to discuss just some of the guys that are notable differences from the 2021 rookie drafts until now. So notable differences that are now inside of your top 24 that were not. Jorge, I'm going to throw it to you. Who is one person that you have inside of your top 24 that was not in there last year when we were drafting?
So this is going to tie directly into who is out of my top 24, which we'll get into in a second. Because literally these two players are swapping with each other, in my opinion. And that's Khalil Herbert, running back of the Chicago Bears. You saw how well he played in relief of David Montgomery last season. David Montgomery is entering a contract year. New coaching staff there in Chicago. New offensive coordinator, likes to employ the zone running scheme, something that Khalil Herbert was very, very good at in terms of taking advantage of those opportunities in that scheme, both in college and in the pros. And like I said, David Montgomery is coming up on that contract, and Khalil Herbert is able to be utilized a little bit more than he was last year. They could say goodbye to David Montgomery, and Khalil Herbert has an easy pass to the snaps going forward for the next few years.
Nice. I have a quick question for you, Jorge. Do you know who led the NCAA in yards from scrimmage in, what was that, 2020?
I'm going to go Khalil Herbert. Is that the right answer?
That is the correct guess. Yes, it was Khalil Herbert.
Yes.
He not only had a massive amount of rushing yards, a fair amount of receiving yards, but he was one of the best kick returners in the country. So
that's actually how he got his start in Chicago. Like the first couple of weeks, like against the Rams, he had a great return. A few other games last season, he had great returns. And then they kind of just threw him into the starting lineup. So,
makes sense. Man, if you're good in space, you can figure out how to be a good running back.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Exactly. Well said. Zach, do you have anyone that is now inside of your top 24 that might not have been last year?
Sure. So I don't do specific rankings, but just based on my experience with drafting Dynasty last year compared to this year, just looking through the list, I think an easy one, especially in Superflex, but not even really just Superflex, but Davis Mills comes to mind, where he was nowhere near the top 24 last year. And I mean, he proved that he might have been the best rookie quarterback last year, just specifically last year, not projecting that forward. But he probably bought himself at least another season, maybe even another season next year. And that's valuable in your Superflex draft. So I think Davis Mills at least sneaks into that back end of the 24.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, it is entirely up to him on how many more years he buys himself. If he sucks, the Texans are going to be picking early and they're going to take someone to replace him. If not, he could stick around for a while. You never know.
Absolutely.
So I will go next on this. I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit on this one. Guys that were outside of the top 24 that are now in there. It's Elijah Mitchell. That is the very easy one. He was one of the lowest outside of Khalil Herbert. Elijah Mitchell was one of the lowest guys on my list that made it into the top 24. He was picked number 32. He was well into the third round where he was being picked, and now he would probably squeeze into the back of the first round for a lot of people. He has the speed that Kyle Shanahan looks for in running backs, and he just had a heck of a year. His primary challenge, like a lot of players, is can he stay on the field? So I look forward to seeing that. I tend to think that this is Elijah Mitchell's job to lose in San Francisco. Do either of you guys disagree with that? Or are you just not touching San Francisco running backs?
So everybody likes to point to the fact that Kyle Shanahan, that is like the son of not Mike Shanahan, but of Bill Belichick when it comes to rotating running backs and not knowing who's the running back you want to start week in, week out. That's not necessarily true. I think that reputation has been built off of circumstance, not necessarily strategy. You look after the Super Bowl, after Raheem Mostert had his run during that Super Bowl year where they appeared against the Kansas City Chiefs. That following season, they were featuring Raheem Mostert until he got injured in that Jets game, and then after that, with all the injuries going back and forth, he just had to go through a rotation of players. And then that's what we saw last year. We saw Elijah Mitchell in that Week 1 game versus the Lions. He was getting the bulk of the work. Trey Sermon was not active, and then they kind of went through a hodgepodge of players. And then once Elijah Mitchell got healthy, he did his thing. He was featured in that running game going forward. I don't see why that's not going to be the case in this season, assuming that he stays healthy.
I agree. It's an exciting and a stress-inducing backfield in San Francisco. I think Elijah Mitchell could have a big year. So let's go opposite of this. Okay. Who are some guys that were inside the top 24 that are now out of it? Zach, I'll start with you.
I guess I'll take probably the most obvious one, since you got the last most obvious one. Same team, Trey Sermon. I don't think we have to say any more than that, but he should not be anywhere near your top 24 now. And I mean, they just drafted TDP, Tyrion Davis Price, who might even leapfrog on the roster. So we'll see what happens, but I don't feel good about Trey Sermon going this year. He could still prove us wrong. Like you said, the Shanahan offense can rotate through running backs, especially as we get injuries going through there, but I can't put him in my top 24 right now.
Yeah, and I'm there with you. I think everyone is right there with you. But I
I'm sorry. You know, it was like the nail in the coffin for Trey Sermon last year in terms of like having any hope for value. It was that Philadelphia game where he got like an open lane in the middle of the field and just went up and then tripped and then boom, concussion. I'm like, come on, man. You finally had like a great opening. You had this opportunity to make a play, and like you literally ran headfirst into the ground. Like you can't make that stuff up.
Oh man, you cannot make that stuff up. But Trey Sermon is a perfect, like he is like an exhibit A for Dynasty, and it's kind of a conversation that we're gonna have multiple times in this episode of talent versus opportunity. Everyone loved Trey Sermon coming out because all of a sudden he was a 3rd round pick that went to one of the most productive rushing offenses in the league. Like his talent and his production at Ohio State be damned. It didn't matter if he was splitting carries with Master Teague. He was drafted by Kyle Shanahan. Dang it.
That's a great pull right there.
It's such a good name, and he's just not a good player. I wish he was a better player. It would be so awesome. So who do you got here, Jorge? Who's fallen outside of your top 24?
So remember I said with Herbert, the player that I'll be talking about now, they kind of like swapped roles here. That's Kenneth Gainwell for the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, you got Khalil Herbert, who has a path to, my hand is not on screen. There we go. He has a path to easy snaps. And then you have, Kenneth Gainwell, who has a path to more 3rd down snaps. I just don't see the equity here in terms of, situation, talent, I kind of give the edge to Herbert, and situation, I give the edge to Herbert. So therefore that's why I'm bumping Gainwell out of my top 24.
Yeah. And you would have liked to see a little bit more production out of him when Boston Scott was getting a significant amount of carries in that pretty efficient rush offense in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but that's just it. Like, who is running the ball in Philadelphia? And I think we kind of know the answer, as I passive aggressively just said that. Is it Miles Sanders? Is it Gainwell? Is it Boston Scott? Is it Jalen Hurts? Like, who is the real RB1 on that team? It's just like how we used to say that with Cam Newton in Carolina. Like, who is the RB1? Is it really Jonathan Stewart? No, it's Cam Newton. It's going to keep being Cam Newton. So that's where my concern is in Philadelphia for all the running backs.
Yes.
It doesn't help either that Miles Sanders came out the other day and is like, yeah, don't draft me in fantasy. I don't know what that means.
Wait,
like, is he trying to misdirect? So, like, yeah, he did.
He was very salty. I think he had a rough. I mean, we all know he had a rough year last year, where great yards per carry, no touchdowns, unfortunately, dealing with injuries, and I have a feeling he had to deal with a lot of people. I mean, he does play for Philly, complaining about how he fared for their fantasy team. So he, in the interview, felt very salty about fantasy football. So I think he just got a bad taste in his mouth about it. But yeah, he's like, yeah, don't draft me. Basically kind of alluding that maybe he's not going to get enough work in the offense. But we might be reading too much into it as we're at the end of June now, early July.
Right.
But yeah, he was not happy about fantasy football in that interview.
I've always had the theory that Miles Sanders was at like some team function like preseason, and he had a little bit too much to drink, and he made a pass at Nick Casario's girlfriend.
I think that's like the default rationale for why players that we like just don't get the play that they should be getting during the season.
He's got to go to breakfast with Jalen Hurts. It's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to pull a Cooper Kupp and do the same thing that Matt Stafford and him did last year. Absolutely.
Yes, man. Coffee and a Danish. That's what needs to happen.
There you go.
So I'll jump in again. I'll jump in on this third guy and try to start up the talent versus opportunity conversation again. Where a guy who was at 22 in ADP last year, Diami Brown, has
Who?
fallen.
Oh, come on, man.
Man,
Come on.
he
All right,
was
continue.
good at North Carolina.
North
He
Carolina.
made Sam Howell. He made Sam Howell. Him and Javonte Williams and the rest of that offense made Sam Howell look like he was deserving of a first-round pick for a year.
I mean, who's this? He has Sam Howell's on his team now. I'm just saying, you never know.
They got that connection on the
That's true.
practice squad.
Hey, in preseason, he's going to be a fantastic player. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
There you go. There's your DFS lineups right there for Keith and Joe of the Daily Fix podcast here.
In the fourth quarter, playing in preseason games.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
So, what week does Sam Howell take over as the Commander's starting quarterback, Jorge?
9. Week 9. I don't know why that just jumped to my head. Maybe I'm being a little clairvoyant right now, but I want to say week 9. He gets in there, and then he just doesn't relinquish the job, and it's another failed season for Carson. I hope it doesn't happen that way. Obviously, I'm a Washington fan. For those who don't know, I'm hoping for the best, but you hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and we shall see. We shall see.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to Sam Howell tossing some piss missiles to Diami Brown in week 11 of the regular season. Yes.
Piss. You have like an amazing repertoire of like phrases and sayings that I've never heard about that are related to football. Piss missiles is one. Sand in the pants, or what? Wasn't that one of the ones that you were talking about like months ago? Yeah. That again, I still don't know what that means. So just a lot of Tylerisms coming on here. I'm noticing.
The piss missile is kind of a pull from golf. But I'm going to take it. I still like it. All right. So we're going to move into our redraft of the 2021 rookie draft. Just to
Can I make an
remind
announcement first?
everyone. Absolutely.
Sorry to cut you off there. So for those who have seen on Twitter, or I guess Twitter today, or have played in seasons previously, we have a charity tournament here called the Four Eyed Championship Tournament. We have 4 divisions. We have 4 division winners, each of them getting $100 donated to their charity of choice. And then we have a postseason run where the person who ends up winning the postseason is the Four Eyed champion. And we use our partners over at Trophy Smack. They construct a great championship belt. We set it their way. Plus, they get money that we're raising on a GoFundMe account. To all that money sent to their charity. The Four Champions charity gets the lump sum pot there. So we're really excited about that. And as I alluded to today, we are announcing divisions. So each year we have used cartoon characters that had glasses on them just to like make it fun, like, oh, this year's is the Egon Spangler division, or this is the Daria division, or so on and so forth. And so I'm going through the list of cartoon characters now, like about a couple days ago, and I'm like, we have exhausted them all. There is no cartoon character that I think we could possibly use going forward. So then I'm watching TV, and I'm a Marvel fan, and I know that Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out next week. And I thought to myself, well, hold on. Thor: Love and Thunder, they have hashtags for their superheroes there, which we could tie into our hashtags for the 4-Eyed Championship. So yay, marketing, yay. And then it just became obvious to me that we had to go with these 4 people. So let's give them, there you go. These are our divisions here for the 4-Eyed Championship. We have the Thor division. We have so that's Chris Helmsworth. We have Mighty Thor, which is Jane Foster. We have Valkyrie. And of course, we have Korg. So Thor, Mighty Thor, Valkyrie, and Korg, those are your 4 divisions here for the 4-Eyed Championship. It is a best ball tournament, which we are going to have both on offense and IDP. And we're going to be kicking off all of our drafts on July 18th. So the sign-up sheet will be going up on all of our social media accounts. So you'll just sign up, let us know which division you want to be in. You'll be assigned a commissioner here. One of the people here at Fantasy and Frames will take over each division. It is 30 rounds. It's no joke. So we have 15 players on offense. You're going to get 15 players on your bench. And half PPR, fantasy and frames, IDP scoring, a few little tweaks here and there, tight end premium, maybe point per first down, rushing and receiving, so on and so forth. I'll put out all the metrics of how we're going to be scoring points here over at fantasyandframes.com in the next couple days. But that's the gist of it. Thor Division, Mighty Thor, Valkyrie, and Korg. Those are your division names. And we cannot wait to start this tournament. It's done great in terms of getting awareness out to the various charities that everybody represents. You basically represent a charity, and that's who you're fighting for. And that's what we really care about here at Fantasy and Frames, where we're doing this tournament. It's not about ourselves. It's about putting our name associated with a charity and doing our best to draft the best team and just bring awareness to the causes that you're there representing. And so July 18th is when we're kicking off our draft, and I'm super excited, and I hope you all are too, and we look forward to you all participating. One of the things I will say, though, is IDP, which we're big fans of here. We have our podcast, the Shoot the Gap podcast, on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. IDP can be intimidating for some because they don't really know it too well. So that's why we made it best ball. So that way you get to draft your players. All you have to do is deal with the stress of drafting the right players, which we can help provide you that information, obviously. And then you're done. And then you don't have to worry about your weekly management of your IDP roster. You just basically just watch each and every week your head-to-head matchups in best ball, and you have fun with it. There's no stress. There's no in-season management, none of that stuff. You just do your draft, and then you just sit back and watch how your team performs. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we can't wait to get you guys and gals all started in this tournament this year.
Yes, I am very excited for that tournament. That is going to be one of my first intros into IDP, Jorge. I am pretty excited for that. I will likely just be bringing up yours and Nate's rankings on the Fantasy and Frames website and just going off that.
That's top 4 Nate. Top 4 Nate in Fantasy Pros IDP last year. So
top 4 Nate.
That's right.
And then, and I'll try to not draft Aiden Hutchinson on there.
See, you're never going to let him live that down, are you? You're never going to let him live that down. I think that's hilarious, though. So, Zach, for those who don't know, Tyler was on Shoot the Gap a few weeks ago, and we were doing our redraft rankings. And even Nate in our group chat put redraft rankings. And yet, when it came time to talk about his rankings, he's like, well, this is kind of like a combo of dynasty and redraft. I'm like, what are you doing? You said in the entire show meeting, and the show notes, the pre-show meeting, everything was about redraft. Now you're throwing this dynasty thing in there. And even the fact they had dynasty, he said Aiden Hutchinson like at some roster position or some number, and Tyler completely like throws him off. He's like, wait a second, Aiden Hutchinson. What about Aquara? What about this player? What about that player? Are you sure you're really pushing him, making him think? And like Nate was just like, oh my god, what have I done? What have I done? It was very hilarious to see Nate squirm. So for those who haven't seen that episode, go back on Shoot the Gap podcast where you listen to podcasts and check that out.
One of the only times I'm going to catch Nate on that. So right. I won't let him forget about it.
Yes.
So we can go ahead and jump into our 2021 rookie redraft. I want to remind everyone who the top 12 was last year by ADP. This is according to DLF, Dynasty Life Football. We pulled it from May 2021, the rookie Superflex ADP. Goes Trevor Lawrence at 1, Trey Lance at 2, Justin Fields at 3, Jamar Chase at 4, Kyle Pitts at 5, Naji Harris at 6, Zack Wilson at 7, Travis Etienne at 8, Javonte Williams at 9, Devontae Smith at 10, Jalen Waddle at 11, and Mac Jones at 12. So a lot of quarterback value there. And I don't hold it against anyone for really valuing those quarterbacks, because even if they might not be the best value, they seem to hold value much better than anyone else. Obviously there are some people in this draft that might have jumped above them, but if there's a running back or a wide receiver that's not very good, we're not going to be talking about them as targets in Dynasty 5-6 years after they were drafted, like we are someone like Carson Wentz. They just when you're I'm sorry, Jorge, that was not on purpose. But
Leave my quarterback alone for those first 9 weeks of the season that he's the starting quarterback of the Washington Commanders.
When you are a top 1 to 2 pick at the quarterback position in the NFL, you have half a decade just granted to you.
Right.
And that means good things for fantasy value. Even if you're not a high-end producer, you are going to be a producer, and you are going to be one of 32 starting quarterbacks. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to pick at 1, Jorge's going to pick at 2, Zach is going to pick at 3, and we're just going to rotate. We're not doing anything special like a snake. We are just going to take best player available and try to build our squad. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off, kick it off. I'm going to take Ja'Marr Chase at number 1, ahead of all of these quarterbacks, ahead of any of the running backs that anyone might be valuing. Sometimes in Dynasty, when you can get a young wide receiver or a young tight end or a young running back that is just head and shoulders above everyone else and is elite and has a great situation going forward, you just have to take that. Even if maybe in a couple of years, someone like Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance or Justin Fields is the top 5 quarterback, I'm comfortable having Ja'Marr Chase for the next half a decade plus as the wide receiver 1 on my dynasty team. Do either of you guys really disagree with that?
Nope. He would be my 101.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I kind of disagree. I think there is the quarterback position is one that there is a little bit more longevity than wide receiver. But I would have him as my 2, but you took him, so darn you. So yeah.
But now you can get your number 1.
Aha! See, there we go. So who's going next? Who do you want to go next, Tyler? Oh my God, he just froze. Tyler froze on screen.
You're number 2, Jorge.
Thank you. Tyler looks like he's meditating. If those who are watching the live stream right now, so
he fell asleep after picking Chase.
There you go. Tyler's back now. There he is.
I apologize. My Wi-Fi did not want to work there for a second. Grabbed the Ethernet cable and plugged in. I'm good now.
Nice. So I'll go at 2. I'm going Trey Lance, quarterback. You look at Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence, as the number 1 pick last year in the NFL draft, as well as what ADP is saying for Superflex leagues last year, I think he is a product of his environment. I think if the players are around him, then he's going to be great. I don't know if he's like the only star in town and whether or not he can carry a franchise. He didn't really do it last year. Although I'm not putting any of his lack of success on him, as I am the organization and the coaching staff last year. That being said, Trey Lance, I think he can make turn water into wine when it comes to fantasy football production. You look at his college days. He sat out his senior year, but his junior year, he had the best deep ball percentage in all of fantasy in all of college sports. Which is last time I heard throwing for big yards. Is great for fantasy points. He was the top graded deep ball passer there, according to PFF. And you look at what he did last year, sparingly here and there. They were not shy, the 49ers that was, and utilizing him in the running game. He has that athleticism, but from a fantasy perspective, give me a guy who is in a Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan offense, although they're probably one of the same Mike and Kyle's. But give me somebody who's in a Shanahan offense, which is conducive to scoring points, that has the athleticism to make plays, whether it's throwing the ball downfield or running for yardage, and give me the weapons that they have currently. And even if the weapons that were not there, if Deebo Samuel, for example, just up and left, which he can't, but you know what I mean. If he got traded this offseason and it was just Ayuk and Kittle, and even then we're talking about like an old Ayuk and an old Kittle, and God knows who at this point is the running back for 49ers. I would still trust Trey Lance to be able to carry the load more so than any other quarterback in this draft class. So that's why he's my number 2 pick.
All right. So you don't have any concern about Trey Lance going into year 2 not yet being named the starter?
Nope. He's a start. Like what? The only reason why he's not the starter is because they're being respectful of Garoppolo. And this whole everyone is, and even they've said, John Lynch has come out on record saying, look, the reason why the trade hasn't happened yet is because the shoulder surgery that Garoppolo had towards the end of last year, just he had it too late. And now other teams are basically like saying, like, well, we don't want to trade for a person who's still rehabbing their shoulder. That's the thing. I don't think Garoppolo is going to be the answer. I think they want to get rid of him. They just need to find a trade partner. They just haven't been able to find that. So yeah, I have no doubt that Trey Lance will be QB1 this year.
Well,
for the 49ers, not overall, just for the 49ers.
Yeah. I feel strongly that Jimmy Garoppolo will not be traded. He might be released. He will not be traded.
That's a good point. All right, Zach, you're up.
Oh, I'm ecstatic because I didn't have to trade up, and I'm still getting my guy that I wanted. So it is always great when you're in startup and you don't have to make that move. It's going to be Kyle Pitts, tight end for the Atlanta Falcons. Taking him over. I won't say any names because we don't want to talk out of turn with other picks coming up. But even in Superflex, Kyle Pitts is one, very talented. He's basically a wide receiver in a tight end position. So we didn't say this was a tight end premium league, but regardless, whether you're in a tight end premium league or not, he's going to put up points for you. And he's extremely young. He's still younger than a lot of rookies that just came into the league in 2022. So I will happily have Kyle Pitts as my tight end for hopefully the next at least 10 years on my dynasty squad.
And I really thought you were going to let me get my top two guys here, Zach. That is
absolutely not. No,
very.
You can make a trade if you'd like.
I think I'll just stick and pick, just like Tom Telesco does for the Chargers.
All right, who you got, Tyler?
All right, number 4, I am going with Trevor Lawrence. He did not have a great year 1 in Jacksonville. I don't think any quarterback could have overcome the situation that Trevor Lawrence was thrown into in Jacksonville with the absolute train wreck that Urban Meyer was and his entire coaching staff was. Even with all of that, the only reason that the Jags even won a couple games was Trevor Lawrence, is because he hung in there and he just knows how to play the position. He did not have talent surrounding him. That was great last year. He still doesn't have overall great talent, but he is a fantastic quarterback. Doug Peterson's going to make a world of difference, and not even to the point where I'm saying Doug Peterson's like this top 10 offensive coach, but the difference between Urban Meyer and Doug Peterson is, you're going from a amateur to a professional. So I'm very excited for the prospects of Trevor Lawrence. He also gets to remind everyone that he's far more athletic than people remember him to be or think he is, being a 6'6" kind of lanky guy. He's going to be able to rack up some rushing yards this year and in the years coming. And I think he is going to be a fantastic dynasty asset going forward.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've started the draft. Ja'Marr Chase, Trey Lance, Kyle Pitts, Trevor Lawrence. So Jorge, who are you going to make the 5th pick?
Man, I am going to take Jalen Waddle. As much as you liked Ja'Marr Chase, I'm a huge fan of Jalen Waddle just because he's tied to a quarterback that targeted him early and often last year. I thought there was going to be an issue with targets when you had like a guy like Mike Gesicki there at tight end. I thought he was going to absorb a lot of the targets last year, but no, Jalen Waddle, I think he had like 140 plus targets as a rookie. And I understand they brought in Tyreek Hill. And before I keep going further into my analysis, I want to clear up a few things here, or one thing here about Tua Tagovailoa. He can throw the ball deep really well. He was like one of the best graded deep ball passers in all of the NFL last year. So this narrative that like, oh, he's underthrowing people or he can't get the ball to where he needs to go. No, he can. He just didn't do it a lot because he didn't have a Tyreek Hill to throw the ball down the field to. Now he does. But even then, just the threat of Tyreek Hill and the prowess that Tua has throwing the ball downfield, I think that's just going to open up a lot more opportunities for Jalen Waddle. He's going to be a PPR monster for years to come in fantasy. So yeah, just lock it in. Send the card up to the stage. Let the commissioner read it. Jalen Waddle.
There you go. I like it. And it doesn't seem like people are talking enough about Jalen Waddle's situation. Or, they mentioned the whole Tyreek Hill thing, but they don't mention how badly the offensive side of the ball was managed under Brian Flores. I love Brian Flores. I think he's a great coach. I think he really did a poor job with that offense. And I think Tua might have a chance to really bounce back here.
Nice. All right, Zach, you're up.
All right, so at pick 6, this is when you kind of start thinking about, we're in a super flex league. Start thinking about those other quarterbacks, but I can't do it quite yet. I'm not ready to pull that trigger. So I'm going to go with a younger running back, a lot of talent. He's still dealing with one of his partners in crime kind of taking away some of his workload. But I'm going to go with Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos because I can't imagine Melvin Gordon's on the team after this year. And so even if they split it 50-50 again, Javonte still looked good. He's still young. Now that Russell Wilson's on that team, I have a lot more confidence in that offense. So I got to go with Javonte Williams at 6.
Tyler, now we were talking before Zach showed up in our pre-show meeting about Javonte Williams, and you have a interesting take on why you're maybe not as high on him. Why is that?
So I like
it's bad when he has to sigh before he gives his analysis.
See, I want to preface this with I like Javonte. However, don't value him as highly as some other people do. He's still my number 7 dynasty running back, but a lot of people seem to think that he's number 1, and this team does not. They don't seem to want to give him the bell cow workload. If you're going to bring back Melvin Gordon and pay him several $1 million, they want it. It's not really about Javonte. It's about the principle of how they want to run their offense. They want to run it with multiple running backs. And I don't know if Javonte is ever going to have that opportunity to be the bell cow running back in Denver. I would love for him to be, but who knows if he is. And the one big thing that stands out for me with Javonte is the thing that separates him from being maybe like a top 4, top 5 running back, just in redraft terms, is his speed. I love Javonte. He's going to be really productive. He's a great pass catcher. He does a great job breaking tackles, but he doesn't have that Nick Chubb, that Saquon Barkley speed where he's just going to burst out and get a 50-yard run. So, I don't want to tear him down too much because I love him, and he was part of that North Carolina offense that we already mentioned that made Sam Howell look like the man. But
Sam Howell, that's right. My quarterback.
He's not my running back 1 in this rookie class. He's not my running back 1 in Dynasty. So, I can see where people are coming from. I just differ there a bit.
So you don't think that they brought back Melvin Gordon and their thought process was, hey, let's take all the tread we can out of Melvin Gordon, use him up, preserve Javonte longer so he has a longer shelf life, and then eventually let him loose? Or do you think they want to implement a 2-back system going forward? Because we look at Nathaniel Hackett coming over from Green Bay with LaFleur. They got A.J. Dillon. They paired him with Aaron Jones, and they're like, okay, two running backs, go have fun with this offense. You think they're trying to do that in Denver also?
It seems that way. I mean, what do you think about that, Zach? You're the one that took him above some of the other running backs in this class. So how do you view that situation?
Sure. So for me, I don't think there's just a lot of bell cow running backs left in the NFL. I think that even the teams that have them right now, it's going away pretty quickly. And we saw how productive he was as a rookie, even sharing the offense 50-50. So I don't think it's going to be a 50-50 split. I think it's more maybe 60-40, maybe even more. But I think it's more just to keep him fresh, keep him available. And it really, I'm fine with running backs obviously splitting workload. I mean, look at CMC, was dominant for multiple seasons, and then he's obviously dealt with some injuries. I doubt they're going to give him that 99% snap share that he had for those couple seasons.
God, I hope not.
Yeah, but with Javonte Williams, when you're looking at any running back, not just Williams, where are they getting their touches? And that's really it comes down to. So last year, he basically split 50-50 near the goal line with Gordon. So it could happen again. But if Gordon's out next year, like after this year, who knows who is sharing that backfield with him. So to me, it comes down to he's a great pass catcher. So those are very valuable points for a running back. And then if he's getting that work near the goal line in those scoring situations, also very valuable touches that I value when I'm looking at my running backs.
I like it. So, in my mind, Javonte compared to one of the other running backs in this class was a bit of an underdog. And, talking about underdogs, we wanted to talk about our partner, Underdog Fantasy. We have partnered with Underdog Fantasy. If you have not downloaded the app, I strongly suggest you do. We have a promo code for you to use. It is FRAMES, FRAMES. You can download that app. You can use that promo code, and you can get a match of 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit on Underdog. They do best ball, and it's not just for the NFL. It's for the MLB. It's for the NBA. It's for NHL. They do pick'em games. It is a lot of fun. And that is one of the most important things for Fantasy and Frames and for Underdog is to make fantasy fun. I have multiple Underdog drafts going right now. It is a very good time. I strongly suggest it. You can throw a few bucks in. They do leagues of $3, $5, $10, $15, $25, $50, $100.
$1 million. No, I'm just kidding.
You can win $1 million if you
Best Ball Mania.
Yeah. What is that? $25 buy-in for Best Ball Mania.
That's
they
right.
make multiple people millionaires by paying that out. I think it's once a quarter throughout the season. It's a lot of fun. I strongly suggest it. Go over to Underdog, download that app, use our promo code FRAMES frames, and have fun with fantasy.
Absolutely. And plus, it'll get you ready for the 4A Championships tournament that everyone's going to be signing up for because it is best ball also.
Absolutely. All right. So number 7 in our rookie draft, I'm going to take the guy that I had slightly over Javonte, and I mean slightly. I am taking Naji Harris at number 7 before I really dive into some of these quarterbacks, because Naji is one of those he's one of those rare guys that really is likely going to get the bell cow work. He has the same issue as Javonte of he might not have those explosive plays, but he's a darn good pass catcher, and he is going to be very productive in an offense that is going to feature him and focus on him in the red zone and in the 10 zone and in the 5 zone. So I feel good about Naji Harris there at 7.
Man, that's a really good one. You mentioned quarterbacks. I'm going to go with a quarterback here next at number 8. And this is definitely going to get some people going, hey, what are you smoking? Like, seriously, Jorge, what are you thinking? Why are you doing this? And this brings up the notion that you had mentioned previously earlier in the show of a player's talent versus their landing spot or current situation. I, in this particular case, am looking at the player's situation, the buildup of the talent around him, the coaching staff, the trends in performance towards the end of last year. I'm taking Zack Wilson. I'm taking Zack Wilson over Justin Fields. You look at the wide receiver situation, who they drafted this year, and then they got Elijah Moore last year. You have a Shanahan style offense being implemented there. You have Breece Hall, the running back, being drafted there. You're having all these great pieces surrounding this player who, towards the end of last season for fantasy, he was putting up good QB2 numbers for your Superflex leagues. And he only has, the sky's the limit versus a guy like Justin Fields, who, I get it, He can run, he can do this, he can do that, which is also great for fantasy. But Zack Wilson also put up some good rushing numbers last year, so it's not like he can't do that. Plus, the offensive line is getting better with the Jets that a lot of people just don't talk about enough. And you look at with Justin Fields and what's going on in Chicago. Who did they add in free agency that really is like, ooh, yes, that's going to help out this Bears offense?
Nobody.
Nobody. They didn't add anybody. They just added a scheme. They have Khalil Herbert. They have David Montgomery, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, and that's it. Like there's nothing exciting about this offense that I can see Justin Fields doing something amazing versus Zack Wilson. I see the trends there. I see the talent around him. So I'm gonna go with Zack Wilson, and please roast me.
Yes, I don't know what you are smoking, but you need to share it to draft Zack Wilson over a guy with what I think is a higher ceiling in Justin Fields and a much higher floor in Mac Jones. Just seems like a bit of a gamble there. I mean, and you're right, their offensive line is definitely a lot better. The interior is great. If Mekhi Becton can play, that would be real neat. George Fant is a professional level tackle, so that's great. So where are you at on Zack Wilson, Zach?
Yeah, I love his weapons, and he could be really good, and he could not be good. I mean, it's way too soon to know. So I have no problem with Jorge going with the potential. Like I said, I love all those weapons. It's great. They seem to really be buying into that offense. They could also buy into that offense for the next year to replace him already, a la Josh Rosen. I can't disagree with what you're saying. I like your optimism, but I also don't feel like very sure about Zack Wilson.
So who is the guy that Jorge left on the board for you to take here at 9?
Sure. So I was also looking at quarterback at this spot now that we're in a super flex, and my guy was mentioned, but not as much. Briefly, it's gonna be Mac Jones of New England. So as you guys mentioned, you said Justin Fields a lot. He does have a lot of upside with his rushing ability. I would say Justin Fields and Mac Jones both don't have great weapons right now, but I feel like Mac Jones's weapons are better. I feel like that team is more stable. I feel like Mac Jones, like you said, has a safer floor. He could easily be their starter for the next 10 years, whereas Justin Fields, I could see him being replaced in the next year or two, depending on how this year goes. So at this point in the draft, I'd rather take that stability where maybe Mac Jones is only my QB2 or QB3 in my roster, but at least I know he's good to be in that position for a while.
Yes, I would feel it's kind of like a warm blanket just wrapping around you if you had Mac Jones in your super flex spot every week. You know, you just it's not going to bomb on you. It might not be a 30-point performance, but Mac Jones is just going to give you what you need, man. He's going to make you feel comfy.
Absolutely.
He's like the Snuggie of quarterbacks.
Yes.
Do they make Snuggies, by the way? Or, first of all, are either of you familiar with a Snuggie and what a Snuggie is?
I know what a Snuggie is. I've also sold Snuggies before.
Nice.
But okay. I feel like they're not a thing anymore, but I feel like people still know what they are.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I own a Snuggie, so you guys
there you go.
And I use it. I don't just own it. I use it.
Well, now you can call your Snuggie Mac Jones from now on. Hey, Mac Jones. Come on, Mac Jones. Let's go, Mac Jones.
We got to get Mac Jones stitched on there for you.
Yes. No, bedazzled. Got to get it bedazzled on there.
Yes.
Nice glittery jewelry.
Bedazzled Mac Jones on top of my Ohio University Bobcat Snuggie.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be awesome.
So number 9, I am up. I am going to go ahead.
10.
Number 10. Yeah, my bad. I can't count apparently. So just to recap, Jamar Chase went at 1. Trey Lance went at 2. Kyle Pitts went at 3. Trevor Lawrence at 4. Jalen Waddle at 5. Javonte Williams at 6. Naji Harris at 7. Zack Wilson at 8. Mac Jones at 9. and I'm going to make the 10th pick right now. And I think there is still a pretty clear tier break in the positional players here before you start getting into the rest of the running backs and wide receivers. So I'm going to go ahead and take the ceiling of Justin Fields. He had a lot of plays last year where it was really frustrating watching him, but he also had a lot of plays where it was like, dang, this guy knows how to throw the ball. And I don't necessarily know if you're right, Zach, about Mac Jones having better weapons than Justin Fields. I think they're both pretty darn bad.
I'm counting his running backs too.
I know, but I like David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert better than I do Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson personally.
But there's more on the wing. It's a sum of all parts, not just a total.
All right. I'll give that to you.
And the offensive line, but
you have no faith in Devontae Parker. You have no faith in Devontae. No, I know that sounds kind of sarcastic the way I just said it, but like, you don't think Devontae Parker is like a massive upgrade for this wide receiving core?
I don't not think that. I think I just believe that Darnell Mooney would instantly be the best wide receiver on the Patriots.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And some of all parts, like Zach said, the Patriots wide receiver core is better than the Bears, seeing as the Bears just spent a 3rd round pick on 25-year-old Velus Jones Jr.
Hey, he's NFL ready. He's already
When you're 25, you're just automatically NFL ready because you're older than like 60% of the league.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I'm just going to take the quarterback value there. He's the last starting quarterback. Well, actually, no, he's not the last starting quarterback. I'm sorry.
Put some respect on his name.
I spoke out of turn.
There you go, Zach. Put some respect on his name.
He is the last starting quarterback that I feel good about.
So that's fair.
I'm going to take Justin Fields.
All right. Well, as we round out our top 12 for tonight, my last pick here is going to be a running back that a lot of people were having ranked rather highly last year until he tore his ACL in training camp. That is Travis Etienne for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, 2 words are what sum up my 3 words are what sum up my feelings about Travis Etienne. Good offensive line. They have re-solidified this offensive line for Jacksonville. We still don't know what the status of James Robinson is going to be. I think Robinson tore his Achilles. Tore his Achilles last year, late in the season. You see all the, the pads and the t-shirt, the shorts, and the helmets. Nothing super physical, in these OTAs and mini camps. But if Travis Etienne can be the player that he was in Clemson, paired with this quarterback, paired with a competent coaching staff, and let's face it, even with the upgrades they have at receiver, bringing in Christian Kirk, they still have Marvin Jones. I still think that the Jaguars are a few seasons away from being "quote unquote" good. So now we're having the situation where, Trevor Lawrence is going to have to get the ball out to his playmakers, and I think they're going to utilize Etienne quite a lot this year, the way that they were probably intending him to be utilized last year.
All right, I love Travis Etienne coming into this year. I think he is going to play a huge role in that offense.
Yeah, I would like to clarify it was a Liz Frank injury, it's still a serious injury, but it was not.
For Etienne.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Okay, Liz Frank.
Nice. All right, so number 12, Zach, who are you rounding us out with?
All right, so Tyler, I can see your ranks, so this is going off your board. I'm not using your ranks on this one, but I just have a feeling, so I gotta go with my feeling. It's gonna be Elijah Moore, which is gonna shock a lot of people. So because a lot of people think Garrett Wilson's now the number 1 with the Jets, which he could be. But I feel like Elijah Moore is just very talented. He showcased that with multiple quarterbacks that were not Zack Wilson as well. But I don't know if you look at the reception perception. Yeah. He will not be drafted in this draft. But if you look at reception perception by Matt Harmon, like, I don't know, Elijah Moore is just very talented at so many different kinds of coverage, all different kinds of routes. When he just has that kind of talent, I feel comfortable that he knows how to get open, and he's only going to get better. And so at the 12th pick, I'm just going to kind of sneak him in there. And I know he's off your ranks compared to your other wide receivers, but I like Elijah Moore.
He is, but I love Elijah Moore. I loved Elijah Moore last year. This goes back to the discussion of talent versus opportunity. And I think my feelings on Zack Wilson being a lot lower kind of reflects on Elijah Moore being dropped down my ranks, where he's paired with him for years to come. But
it could be 1 year.
You're right. It could be.
All this hate. A year from now, we're going to have our receipts handy, and I'm going to be like, exactly.
But if Zack Wilson did great, then Elijah Moore just also did well. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There we go. So basically, it's team up on Tyler time next year. This time.
2023 Jet starter Carson Wentz.
Stop it. Although, if it puts Sam Hell in the driver's seat in Washington, I'm okay with it.
Dynamic Brown coming back.
Exactly. Look, you laugh, right? But you look at the talent that they put around Sam Howell at North Carolina, and he played really, really well. It's the same thing they have in Washington. I'm just saying. Don't be surprised.
Hey, I find it hard to root for the Washington franchise to be
It's
good,
hard.
but I'm kind of there with you as in another hated franchise. I'm a fan of the Browns, and everyone hates them. So, I just want you to be happy, Jorge. That's all that matters to me.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So just a quick recap before we wrap this up. Jamar Chase went at number 1. Number 2 was Trey Lance. Number 3, Kyle Pitts. Number 4, Trevor Lawrence. Number 5, Jalen Waddle. 6, Javonte Williams. 7, Naji Harris. 8, Zack Wilson. 9, Mac Jones. 10, Justin Fields. 11, Travis Etienne. And 12, rounding out the first round, is Elijah Moore. So I really like that. That was fun going over, just what compared to what that ADP was last year. Really enjoyable. So let's finish this up. So some things that we got going on fantasyandframes.com. I just released a David Njoku Dynasty Target article. Jorge, what do you have going on over there?
I got a couple IDP article. I got an IDP article coming out for Dynasty Targets. Rashawn Gary, defensive lineman / edge rusher for the Green Bay Packers. And I also got an article on Tony Pollard being a great Dynasty target to check out over at fantasyandframes.com. Before we keep going with more of our content, Matt Daddy over here, who puts out great content for fantasy football and for pro wrestling. I'm a huge pro wrestling mark, so love all your work, Matt Daddy. He says, great content, fellows. Are you buying Gibson at a discount this year? Only at a discount. I'm a huge Brian Robinson fan. I think he's going to be very influential in this offense going forward. So yeah, that's the only way I'm getting any type of Antonio Gibson is if the trade is super in my favor. What about you guys?
Would you pay a late first for Antonio Gibson if you're a competing team?
If I'm a competing team, I don't need Antonio Gibson.
Okay.
That's my rationale. Wow, would you?
No, probably not.
Nice.
I wanted to put the content out there, the context.
Fair enough. Zach, would you take Antonio Gibson at a discount?
Not at Tyler's discount. Yeah, it'd be more discounted than a first. I mean, in a second, yeah, if you're a contending team, sure, why not? I mean, there's a lot of fear right now, but that doesn't mean it's actually warranted. We really don't know what they're going to do in that offense. So it's all speculation until we really kind of see it happening. But like we were just talking about underdog. So I'm in the puppy with Superflex league, and I drafted Antonio Gibson at the 98th pick as my first running back because I kind of went 0 RB in that, and his ADP right now is 89.2. Now that's best ball, not dynasty, but just to kind of put in perspective of how far he's falling right now in value. So if you're trading him in Dynasty, you're probably not going to be able to get much for him, because I just don't think managers out there are really valuing him at all like we were last year.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of best ball, so the guys over on the Daily Fix podcast, Joe and Keith, there are DFS gurus / Sherpas during the regular season. This offseason, during the summertime, they're doing a best ball series where they're covering each position week by week and telling you which players they feel that you should be targeting in your best ball drafts. And Keith just put out an article, Best Ball Draft Strategies, where he covers all the positions. And so you can check out all of our best ball article work over at fantasyandframes.com on our homepage. Zach, you had your article last year about what exactly is best ball. So we have that combined with the best ball draft strategies. We have best ball rankings. Just click on the best ball tab. So we're getting all into that. And in fact, Keith Fleming, who you should follow at Keith Fleming, he's been putting out a series of TikTok videos on our TikTok page, which is then going onto our Instagram page, which is then going onto our Facebook page, talking about quarterbacks and running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends that you should be targeting in best ball this year. And again, like Tyler mentioned earlier, head over to underdogfantasy.com to download the app, I should say. Use the promo code FRAMES and just have fun with it. Just have fun. I think everyone can agree that draft day is like the most fun day of the year, aside from winning a title. And that's what it is. It's just drafting, and having just a lot of fun selecting the players for your team.
Yes, absolutely. So, Jorge, where can everyone find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Jorge B. Edwards. I'd rather have you follow us all over at Fantasy in Frames. We put out, articles every day. We tweet them out. We answer questions. We're there for you. Whatever you need, fantasy football wise, we got you covered for IDP, redraft, dynasty, best ball, DFS. We did a lot of work, and I mean a lot of work for our NFL draft preparation and the NFL draft fallout. So those who are still interested in that, head over to our website, fantasyandframes.com, click on the tabs. You can find all of our work there. We got our Dynasty Target series, like I mentioned earlier, going on. We're going to be wrapping that up next week. So a lot of people here put in a lot of great work, a lot of dedicated staff that we have here at Fantasy and Frames. So check us out.
Absolutely. And Zach, where can they find you on Twitter?
Sure. So I'm at FF Chalupa Batman.
Yes.
So for the league reference, for some people get it and some people have no idea what it's about, and that's what makes it hilarious.
Yes. If they're below 25, they have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, they're like Taco Bell and Batman. I don't understand what's happening.
And I can be found on Twitter over at FF Tyler Heil. That's HEIL. But please follow us at Fantasy and Frames. Please follow us at Dynasty 365 Pod. Really exciting stuff that's going on. Also, make sure you listen to Jorge's podcast, the Shoot the Gap podcast, on Thursday evenings. And our redraft podcast, Fourth and Frames, will be coming back here in July. So I'm pretty excited for that. So
absolutely. Yep.
Yes. Zach, thank you for joining. Jorge, I appreciate it. It was a blast. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good night.
Take care, everybody.